promoting weight is the way to go.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please state your name for the record.
My name is Lynn Hummel. I'm here also for the continuation of 3 full-time officers. I believe with new businesses coming into town, if we want new businesses to come into town, we need to have an increased force that is seen by any criminals or whatever you want to call them. It's also important, as Kenny was stating, for EMS and for us, the rest of the ambulance crew, if we're called to a scene where there's a possible weapon in the house or on the property, we are not allowed to go in to that place until police shows up, and it's so much nicer to have someone come from our town rather than waiting 20-30 minutes for someone from Lanesboro or Preston or the state troopers to come in. And I'm sorry, we need this because you can't put a price on somebody's life. Neighborhood watch is fine. We do that in our neighborhood. We don't need the big eyeballs stuck to our windows. We can't be expected as neighborhood watch people to be, okay, something's going on over there. I'm not going to run over and tackle this guy and hold him down until police come once again from either Lanesboro or Preston or whatever. We need to be able to call and know that we've got 3 guys full-time that will come up and take over for us.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else? Go ahead, state your name for the record, sir.
Maynard LaFleur. I know I'm for police, but we need to know that you guys keep a clear head in thinking about how many police we really need on duty all the time. I read the paper and I know this overtime stuff that they talk about, every cop that you hire or put on part-time still is overtime. When they got to go to a court case, you got to add that on as overtime because they're getting paid for it. So every time you get a cop and they arrest someone, that's time away in court too. So the overtime case on that is, I don't agree with a lot of that. When you say overtime, yes, we need it, but we got to figure out how many cops we really need that is a true figure for this town. Like you said, it's a small town now, and I know things are probably getting worse. I don't know. I don't see that much more of dope or whatever going around. And I know when I used to ride around with the cops years ago, when I was assigned to do that, we went around and we know of some people that did things and nothing happened to them. And so we need to get things done right away and nip it if that's the case, if there's people doing around with illegal drugs, and make sure we don't hire too many cops, because if that raises taxes, and this is not just come from me, this is people around that I've been talking to, they're worried about the amount of cops and the amount of time that is spent. Do they warn people instead of just give them a ticket, so you got to go to court with them? There's things like that you got to take all in consideration. We got a bad reputation in this town from out of town, that people don't dare to come in here no more because they're arrested, or not arrested, but picked up for nothing, just like a harassment deal. That's not a good thing for this town.
Who?
I'm not saying names, I'm just saying it's around town. You can ask a lot of people, they will tell you. I'm just saying we need to think about this to make sure that it's accurate when you guys make your rule up here. I'm for cops in town. I'm just saying other people don't like this. So make your judgment.
Don't like what?
Having too many cops in town. Being paid. We're used to having, 1 cop, like you said, or 2. Now we're going to have maybe 3, 4. We got some part-time ones also. What do you figure we got? 5?
We had 3 full-time officers before Chris Frick resigned, and then 4 part-timers. The more part-timers you have, the more people you have to schedule. It doesn't mean they're all working at the same time.
I understand that. I worked in a company. I had a lot of people work for me, and I had to schedule 15, 20 people. I had to schedule them. All I'm saying is we just got to make sure we don't have too many.
Is that it?
Yep.
Anybody else? Please state your name for the record, sir.
Steve Garrett. I can give a little insight as to both sides. I did 5 years employed by the Rushford Police Department, and I now am employed by the Houston County Sheriff's Office. My family and I have chosen to stay here, in big part because of the police coverage. A lot of towns don't have the coverage we do, and in my 10 years of experience in law enforcement, it shows. There's a lot of towns with a lot bigger problems than this one has. And I think with the number of residents we have here per head, it's probably $5 a year to put a third full-time officer on. Something to think about. Pretty cheap.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please state your name for the record, sir.
Dan Fox. I have a business here. I'm along the lines of, the reason Rushford seems so good and we don't need police officers as such is the fact that we got them. And a lot of things get avoided. People don't do things because there's a presence in town. That's a very good thing. The other thing that's good is as a business, there's a lot of stuff that's outside. People wander around, stuff disappears, stuff we pay good money for, skids, stuff like that. It's not being stolen at the level of things that were. Things aren't disappearing. There's a reason. It's because we got the coverage going around, and people realize that someone's just, odds are going to drive by, so if something's not looking right, someone's going to say something, or the police officer's going to see you at night. So if you're not where you're supposed to be, you get a question, what's going on? And that's a big deal, and it makes me as a businessman feel good. It should make the community feel good for the fact that these things that aren't in our community that I know exist in some others, from my son, and I hear things that go on. Same thing. It's because, hey, they know that there's a police officer on duty, and he's keeping his eyes open. Maybe it'll be a she next time. I don't know, but whatever. And that's why Rushford can say we're still a nice, safe, small community. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Any more public comments? Last call for public comments. State your name for the record, sir.
Jack O'Donnell. And I'm going to speak on the police thing a little bit too. I've been involved in it for over 30 years, and starting with Jay Summers back in 76.
Sorry, Jack.
I just think, in my mind, I would rather see the continuation of the full-time officer versus another 3 or 4 part-time officers. I think with the full-time officer, you get a better value. You get a person who's actually connected with the community a little bit better than you do with part-time officers who are coming from wherever. I've worked with hundreds of part-time officers over the years. There's been, and the majority have been very good officers, but they're, with every part-time officer, they're always looking to go someplace else to get a job full-time. So I just think the full-time officer position is the best way to go. The changes that have happened in police work since I started in 76, it's night and day. When I started, Mabel had a chief, Harmony had a chief, Rushford had a chief. They were all good officers, but nowadays, those guys have really had a tough time with all the changes that have happened in police work in the last 35, 40 years. The training, the difference in emergency management stuff that they have to prepare for, all that stuff, it's just, I just think you get a better value with a full-time officer, and I hope you continue that.